So perhaps let's begin on that note. So how will this year's trade fair, trade expo essentially be different?
I think, thank you for hosting me. I think that the big key theme for us here is to look at the advancements of technology and the impact of that of trade finance. Now, if you just look at the main topics which will be addressed at the conference, is big things like big data, supply chain finance, and then the involvement of robotics. And I think then one very key item for us, which we believe is very relevant to the Africa continent, is the technology of blockchain.
I mean, I caught up with the manager of, I think it's the port in Durban. I'm not too sure what the name is. And, you know, a lot of technological advancements already there, you know, running the day-to-day operations. But blockchain, tell me how that is going to feature into the mix going forward.
Sure. So blockchain, you know, more to your audience known is, you know, where cryptocurrencies using the underlying, but it's more distributed ledger technology. Now, what does that enable in a more simplistic way? So it enables participants within a transaction to digitally record certain terms or conditions, where a network of participants agree to certain terms of conditions. Now, if we take that in the context of Africa, so a recent Africa Development Report came out that South Africa's inter-Africa trade is lagging way behind when we compare to other regions across the world. Now, if we can use blockchain technology to enable trade finance to be more transparent, more cost effective, and also if you really think about the development of economy starts with small, medium enterprises. Now, the reality is we all struggle to get access to finance. Now, with blockchain technology, effectively you can mitigate intermediaries or role players managing the whole system, and it's much more transparent.
All right, so making trade finance easier ultimately solves the problem of the lack of infrastructure to actually get that infrastructure, that inter-Africa trade going.
So if you think about Take Back, Africa has done phenomenal things in terms of technology. If you recall, we leapfrogged GSM mobile technology to leapfrog land communication infrastructure. At the back of that, we were the pioneers of mobile banking and mobile money across the region, and that has taken off, which is a real world phenomenon. And I believe if we look at this technology, obviously it requires a lot of buy-in, a lot of support. It can really open up inter-Africa trade and effectively keep trade in Africa.
And it also requires a lot of understanding, because right now we've got our authorities that are actually investigating this blockchain crypto technology and trying to find out really is it a win-win or a lose-win for some that can make money out of it. So I imagine the regulators should be attending this trade expo.
So when you get to cryptocurrency, that is a debate on a different day. When you get to blockchain, you look at trade finance. It records transactions which is absolute. It cannot be altered. There is a audit trail. All participants is aware of all activities within it. So what does it create? A central disparity of information for regulators to look at. So anti-money laundering, anti-terrorism financing, it actually makes it easier because there's a central a record which is shared across the whole spectrum of everyone in the chain. So effectively, in my view, it makes it better, because traditionally you have intermediary banks who facilitate import and export banks, and everyone's got its own ALM regime. Some are regulated by other regulators except South Africa, which means now you almost bring it back to a single record for the regulators to look at and effectively combat financial crime.
I mean, in terms of our position in adopting blockchain, how do we rank? I mean, I've heard in some corners that perhaps Africa is a bit slow. Can we change this?
I think the will is there. I think if, you know, there's a lot of green shoots out in the world. So for example, we've invested in a technology payment company called Ripple. We were first to do a cross-border payment from Singapore into India using blockchain technology, where we effectively didn't use any intermediary banks you would have used normally to effect the transaction. So effectively, there's a lot of case studies out there. A lot of financial institutions is investing into this blockchain technology, but again, it takes collective will to make it happen, because again, you need scalability.
For sure. I mean, and in terms of, benefiting the man on the ground, because ultimately increasing intra-Africa trade and making trade finance easy and all of that is, the bigger picture is to get the economy going. The bigger picture is to get people in jobs. I mean, will this help actually take us a step closer towards achieving this?
I think absolutely. We can just take the SONA, you know, where the president announced, you know, a massive development in terms of youth unemployment, small, medium enterprise developments. Now, usually the problem is access to finance, access to sophistication. So when you want to export, you need to have a bank. There needs to be an exporter which gives payment obligation you need to mitigate that risk. Now, if you get blockchain involved, you almost take out all the intermediaries because a blockchain is visible to everyone in the system. It's transparent. It can't be changed. And if anything happens within the blockchain, it gives you visibility. So you can imagine a small, medium enterprise exporting and they never get paid. You know, so effectively you need to create a framework to support the growth and development of it.
And I suppose that's what more sophisticated or more developed markets are doing.
Yeah, so like a typical example, the Chinese Monetary Authority already in 2016 approached Standard Chartered Bank and other financial institutions to test a trade finance blockchain, you know, platform to effectively see if they can open up trade and make it effectively. So it means there's regulators in the world and authorities already looking at it in terms of the benefits which it can bring to their regions.
So this is happening in Cape Town. When
that is correct. It's on Thursday and Friday.
Thursday and Friday. Is it too late to register now?
A little bit. Let's see what we can do.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. Of course, that's where we leave it with Henning Bischoff, who's the head of transaction banking for Southern Africa at Standard Chartered Bank.